Second question is, my son has been, we think, in depression for a few years now, and we got him to a psychologist, and he's on a medication now to help him with that. And I also understand that we have to allow him to go through his evolution, his growth. But I guess I'm looking for a little reassurance from you that at some point he's going to find what's missing in his life, or he's going to find what he's looking for.
He will. If you are going 1,000 miles an hour and you hit a tree, it's a painful experience. If you are going 5 miles an hour and you hit a tree, it's not such a big problem. And so your son has managed, he was born with this fast-moving energy, he's managed to get fast-moving energy going, and when he finds thoughts along his physical trail that are not a vibrational match to that, then he's having a sort of rough ride. And what happens so often with people, they make such a judgment about the inappropriateness of some action that they miss altogether what is deeper behind it, that there is discomfort. If you find someone bleeding in the street, we know that you and almost everybody else you know would do whatever you could to help them. But when you find someone belligerent or depressed, you don't usually have that same desire to assist them, even though they are in every bit as much trouble as someone who is bleeding in the street.
Right.
And so we would like to give you the reassurance that you're asking for here. We see this energy as bright, healthy, powerful, non-physical energy. And it is certain that with a little bit of exposure to some understanding about why he's feeling the way he's feeling, he will, with much greater ease than you can imagine from this point, come back into vibrational harmony. And again, we want to remind you, and we're not wanting to seem uncaring about this, it is exhilarating. We would far rather see someone in a state of banging into trees than in a state of not wanting. In other words, if you have a desire that is vibrating here and beliefs that are vibrating here, you are uncomfortable. That's a strong discord. There's a lot of resistance. You've got fast-moving energy that you're not allowing to flow through. So there are two ways of bringing yourself into balance. One is to lower the vibration of the desire. The other is to raise the vibration of belief. So what we would do if we were interacting with anyone who was bleeding or hurting, we would offer words. We would try to reach for the thought that feels best, for the thought that feels best, for the thought that feels best. The thing we most want you to hear as this parent and mentor and friend is that we're not here to give you stuff that you can give to him to fix him. What we're wanting to assist you in doing is reaching for the thought that feels best as you hold him as your object of attention. Because as you hold him as your object of attention, and you've reached for the thought that feels best so that pure positive energy is flowing through you, now he receives the benefit of that pure positive energy being flooded all over him as you hold him as your object of attention. And that's what this has all been about anyway. In other words, he's wanting to know his value. That's the strongest thing that we can feel in this. He wants to know that he has strong, valuable reason for being. And somewhere along his path, he's lost sight of the fact that that is so.
Is there any connection between the fact that I was so disconnected by this garage incident that I have a connection with him, that by my disconnection I helped him into this situation?
Well, we would say that what happened was, in your disconnection, there was more of an inflaming of all of it. But you really do not have as much to do with his vibration as he or you would like to give you credit for.
Good. Good.
In other words, he is the offer of his vibration. What we're talking about here is power of influence. And if you are dramatically disconnected, you can influence another to disconnection. But that's over a longer period of time.
Okay.
In other words, his tone is pretty well set, and what he is attracting is more about what he is thinking about. And we would say it has to do with lots of other things other than his relationship with you. Many other things. That's not a big factor. However, having said all of that, so you see him as he is living, and you feel concern about what's going on. And out of your awareness of some of the things that you are hearing back from the counselor, a stronger, more focused rocket relative to him is being born within you.
Right.
So now your work is to turn to this vision and imagine it and pretend it and line up your energy relative to that. It's not about what you might say to him, although in your alignment your timing will be good and you will find perfect things to say at perfect times. Really what we're wanting to talk to you about is your newfound desire and your subsequent aligning of energy to it. And as you achieve that, what happens is you literally give birth to a new relationship to him. In other words, you find him in your imagination rather than finding him in his current reality. And as you do that, you connect to source energy, because when you look at him as he bees in his unhappiness, that certainly is not a vibrational match to what you would want for him or what you know he wants for him. So as you observe him as he is, you're not a vibrational match to your own desire. And it often feels like if he would just behave differently, then you could be a vibrational match to your desire relative to him. But that's the backwards way of going about that. You've got to find your vibrational match about him, whether he finds it or not. And when you do, you have extraordinary power of influence.
Okay.
Good.